Those are some of the possible areas the 10 billion shillings could be spent. However, to explore this further, we're joined by Mr. Julius Kapwepwe from the Uganda Debt Network. Good evening and welcome to NTV Tonight, Mr. Julius.
Good evening and my pleasure to be here.
Now, getting straight into it, what would this money have done in the fight against COVID-19 within our country, apart from being given to our members of parliament?
Members of parliament, the 10 billion, yes. We also need to look at the broader context that much bigger money, about 1 trillion shillings, was passed that day in the supplementary, in one of the supplementaries in the month of March. So we need to look beyond the 10 billion shillings that was just given to members of parliament. In the case of the 10 billion, even as a particular component, that money was part of what had been borrowed from the European Union. So you can imagine we are borrowing one side here to give people some bit of opulence on the other side. So at 50,000 number of beds that the entire country has, including the machinery of the army and the private hospitals, and we require about 200,000 beds at least. So you can see how much would have been able to offset that kind of look at the number of districts in Uganda, Namayingo, Lwengo, Mitoma, and the number of others. 39 of them do not have district hospitals. So how much do you think the 10 billion would have done in terms of upgrading Winja Health Center to be a district hospital for Namayingo district, and therefore the benefits for the people in that region of Uganda? We have about 55 intensive care units in Uganda. You can imagine 55 is just a handful. So 10 billion at about 300 million shillings per intensive care unit would have been able to have 30 brand new intensive care units for betterment of health of Ugandans, you and I. Would have been able also to have, because we have about 481 ambulances in Uganda, and of those, only 181 belong to government. Remember, some of them are not fully operational, they're in a garage somewhere or something is happening. So even at 300 million per ambulance, would have been able to secure 30 new ambulances that take us through the next season, about 5 years to come. Yeah. So.
Well, now when you mention that and all that this money could have been able to do for our healthcare system, we also look at the fact that now some members of parliament said, no, we're not going to touch this money, while also the High Court yesterday did order members of parliament to refund the 20 million shillings they had received to help with the COVID-19 supplementary fight. Now, the court ruling directs that these MPs refund the money to 3 particular accounts, which is 1, the District Task Force, the National Task Force for COVID-19, and the Parliament Commission. So if this money is returned, what should be done with the money? Because you seem to have laid out a particular way this money could have been used. Well, it's coming back.
Ideally, that we even went to that extent of dishing out money. Public funds, borrowed money from the European Union. It was part of the 600 million euros borrowed, dished out without clear guidelines on exactly what that money should do. Itself has to be condemned from the start. So the details of it should be refunded to this account and the other is already part of the mischief. Going forward, even the refund is not guaranteed. The executive can give an opinion headed by His Excellency the President, but also judicially and Parliament as the 3 independent arms of government. None superintends over the other, ideally. Therefore, it could be refunded to those areas talked about, but not necessarily. In fact, if it was ever be refunded, it should be to the consolidated fund, where originally anyway it is said to have come from, not anywhere else.
So you're saying that when we take a look at the 3 arms of government, that one can actually go ahead and choose not to listen to what is being said, because yes, the president did mention something, but even the courts of law are saying something. Are we saying that perhaps they might not take heed to this?
We are saying that the legal team and the actions of the office of the Speaker at Parliament needs to be more careful next time, so that we do not have Parliament into continued ridicule by the people of Uganda out of the actions of the members of Parliament. Simply mischief. It has been on through the years. We don't have all the time to, but if you check that around 2005, 2011, and now more recently, you remember the Mbare controversies around the limits up or down, the monies that were involved, and also this time. So in the first place, we should desist from going to this direction. But going forward, it is imperative that we listen, that the three arms of government listen to one another. They don't even have to come publicly in some of these areas, because we already know as Ugandans, you and I, that this was mischief. The action of parliamentarians was mischief from the start. In fact, it was simply smuggled into the supplementary budget. So that already tells you a picture of how mischievous it has all been.
Well, lastly, before I let you go, just for you to answer, now when we talk about the different accounts that this money will go to, such as the National Task Force for COVID-19 and the District Task Force, also the Parliament Commission, when it comes to the fight of COVID-19 within the country, we have seen that in some places there's a bit of a gap. Some people are receiving, some people are not receiving. What perhaps you should think this money should be doing is not what it's doing. In your opinion, if this money, if some members of Parliament listen, what should these task forces be directing this money to?
If the money was, my view still is that the money, rather than being scattered all over the different accounts that you mentioned, and maybe many more are yet to come, the money should come back to the consolidated fund. Out of the budget of the National COVID Task Force, we can keep drawing that money accordingly. Not any other source, not any other way.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Julius Kapwepwe. He is from the Uganda Debt Network and was joining us this evening trying to understand this 10 billion shillings and what it could be able to do if it wasn't given to the members of Parliament who were supposed to return it. Now, an extensive conversation on the 10 billion shillings will be coming up on the spot, and a look at the final stretch of the lockdown. Joining on that conversation will be Gerard Karuhanga, the Member of Parliament for Ntunga Municipality, Solomon Serwanyi, who is the Commissioner of Parliament, and Dr. Miriam Matembe, who is a human rights activist. Now, we're going to take a short break, but here's what's still to come on NTV Tonight.